It's gonna be seasonal. So year after year, it's gonna be like this. So how are we going to produce? Are we going to produce like this in our factory? So you see, this implies, for instance, we produce, let me say, 100 per month. Here, we need to produce 500 per month. So what do we need to do to go from this level of production to this level of production? What do we need to do? We need to hire new workers. We can schedule probably overtime. We have to subcontract something. We have to do many things. Then, to go from here to here, we need to fire workers. And that is usually expensive, and so on. So, that is a possibility. The other possibility, the other extreme possibility, this choice, the one that I just mentioned, has a name. It is the chase strategy. Chase means chase, follow the demand. So that's what we did, right? The other possibility is this. Produce here, 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 and here. This is a level strategy. You can see that clearly, level. So stay put, fixed. And what is going to happen here? Here, we may have back orders. No. Inventory. We have more. Here, we may have back orders. Or we can keep this inventory to satisfy this. In any case, we have a cost. So, which one of these two choices that I mentioned, the chase or the level strategy, is better?
Which level?
It depends on the balance of the cost.
The answer is, it depends on the costs. Because if holding inventory is very cheap, which one is better?
Chase.
Level. I hope you see it.
Yeah.
Is that clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. If hiring and laying off workers is very expensive, I mean the union is very strong, we cannot fire personnel. Which one is the best choice? Level again. You see that?
In which case it will be better to chase them.
To the chase, when it's very easy to fire personnel, it's not costly. Or when the holding inventory is very costly, then we chase, we try. The chase alternative is also known as the zero inventory choice. If we chase the demand, we keep zero inventory. So that is convenient when holding inventories is very costly. Or if we are working like just in time, the company says zero inventory, so we are talking about the chase strategy. It's a constraint from the company. And it doesn't matter really how expensive it is, it's just the strategy of the company. Okay, in general, so we have these two extreme choices, level and chase. In general, the best choice, the optimal choice is gonna be a mix of this. And we are going to optimize here in class. So I think I'm going to use Excel once to optimize, and then we are going to use Lindo. Is that okay? Lindo.
Yes.
Everybody? Okay? Okay. So we can talk about personnel, staffing plan, or a production plan. We are going to talk about families of products. And, well, this is it. So we are there in the green square. And you know that the next stage is gonna be what, MPS and MRP, and then sequencing. So we are moving slowly towards the last step, which is sequencing, slowly but surely. Okay. To do the plan, when you said it depends on the cost, these are the things that we need to consider to formulate our plan. So we need input from all those things. So the one that we saw before is just here. The forecast is there, but we also need this. We need, very importantly, we need the cost, we need the financial information, availability of workers, the cost of training. We need to know if we have the raw materials. We need to know how much personnel we have. So we need many things. And so we are going to mix all this and try to find the best plan. The plan that optimizes something. The ultimate goal of the companies is to make profits. Okay, here they are. So we can use any of this, but the first one is the best one. And the one on the right, maximize profits, is I consider is the best. Questions about it? You know all this, right? I was looking at this. Reactive alternative is when we have the chase strategy. Anticipation inventory is the same one when we want to keep inventory to satisfy an increase in the demand. We can use hires and layoff, workforce adjustment. We can use overtime or idle time, undertime, or we can choose to have like vacation schedules. Do you know what the last one is? Vacation. When there is it has happened here in Toluca. There is, several years ago, there was like a strike in the US, in the main companies in Detroit. And so the plants over here did not have raw materials, so they couldn't work. So they told the workers, what do you want? Do you want me to fire you, or do you want to take vacations? And they took vacations. Even though it wasn't the season for vacation, but yeah. So it's not too good, but you see the choice is get fired or use your vacations. And I know this happened here in Toluca, and they accepted the deal with vacations. So it is a choice. Low demand, then vacations. We can also subcontract, we can have backlogs, back orders, or stockouts. Do you know the difference between back orders and stockouts? Back orders is when the customer comes, we don't have it, and the customer agrees to wait until the product arrives. Back order. The other one is a lost sale. Customer comes, do you want to wait? No, I'm not gonna wait. Strategy and the level strategy. So the level strategy, we have inventories, as you can see, and I also mentioned that more often than not, the mix strategy is gonna be the best strategy. Here is a case like when we are asked the question, which one of these is better? In general, we may say that this is better because we are not going to lay off workers. And we think that is a good practice, but it's very difficult to keep. But there are companies like Hallmark that never has used layoffs. So when they hire a worker, the promise is you have lifetime employment. And that is very good for the workers. But the companies that do this, like Hallmark, Very few. Okay, so the costs, normal salary, overtime salary, cost to hire and lay off the workers, inventory holding cost, and the other costs. So we are going to consider all this. Do you have any questions about this? So overtime cost says over there that typically is 150 or 50% more than regular salary. Do you know how much is here in Mexico? The overtime rate? Nobody?
I just know that it's maximum of 6 hours per day.
Oh, that is the limit of the working hours, but the salary, the rate, the payment, the salary rate. Do you know? Nobody knows? That is the law. Okay, so here we have a problem, and we are gonna start with this. We are going to use Excel. So. Okay, we are gonna start with this. This is an easy problem, I think. It is easy in this regard. This is the service company. In a service company, we cannot have inventories. So there is no inventory here. We cannot keep inventory from one period to the next. It is a service company. So in that sense, this is easy. The problem is easy. We are going to see problems with inventory later, but this, we are going to start with this one. So we are going to solve this problem. We are going to find, you see there are no questions in here. But the questions are, find the chase plan, compute the cost. Find the level plan, compute the cost. Find the optimal plan, compute the cost. So 3 questions, and we are going to answer the 3 questions today. Ready? Do you have the data? Do you have any questions about this? Now, there is something here that we need to take everything into account, but notice this. This 11 workers is the initial number of workers, 11. There is no limiting how many workers we can hire or lay off. In this case, as I said, this is an easy case. There is something important here. Let me see. The workers can work, everything has been aggregated. You see, this is repair road maintenance. We can have many types of roads, right? Like dirt roads, we can have highways, freeways. And you don't see that we are going to have 100 kilometers of dirt roads and 50 kilometers of highways and 20 kilometers of freeways. For instance, we don't have that information. This is gonna be done. They are going to work like this, right? They can work in these conditions, in these roads, or in this, or in this. But can we add this to say the demand is 170 kilometers? Can we add this with this? I'm gonna give you an analogy of this. 2 apples,
No.
okay, 3 oranges,
No.
okay, can we add those? Okay, so the same. So can we add this? Okay, good answer. So we transform this to labor hours, and then when we have labor hours, we can add them. I can change this to pesos, cost, and then I can add the costs. So this rows have been aggregated into this. Okay, so that's the problem. Oh, the thing I was going to mention is this. Here it says that the salary, normal salary is 6,240 per quarter, per worker. And the quarter has 520 hours. So what is the hourly salary? Can you compute it? The hourly salary in normal time. Dollars per hour. These are dollars and these are hours. We are dividing this. It is 12. So the normal salary is $12 per hour, right? What is the overtime salary? You can see it. Overtime salary. It is 18. So it is, in fact, 50% more, as I say, right? 50% more. Now, it says here that the unjust, like idle time, is paid at 12 per hour, the same rate as the normal salary. So they are going to pay for idle time, idle time. Does that make sense? If the worker is not working, are we going to pay for that?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Because it's the law. Has to be paid at the regular rate. Questions about that?
Yes. How do you know the worker is not working? Or
His side is doing nothing. Is next to the machine, just looking.
but it has to be like that in some parts of the process?
Yeah.
Or just because?
Yeah, if the worker is idle because there are no raw materials, waiting is idle, and we have to pay. The company has to pay, always. It is the law. As long as the worker is inside the factory, gets paid. Yeah, that's the way it is, here and everywhere. Okay. So, let's try to solve this. So, the first question is, find the chase plan. Let me add something to that. Find the chase plan with no overtime. So, we are going to schedule, we are not gonna use the overtime in this first trial that we are gonna do. So, I am saying that in advance, we are not going to use overtime in the chase plan. Okay, so let's find the chase plan. So, cell. Have the quarters like this. And I'm gonna start with the quarter 0. Because remember that we have an initial condition that says we have 11 workers at the beginning. So this is what I'm going to use. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4 quarters. And we have the demands. The demands were given. And can you tell me the demands?
6,000.
6,000,
12,000.
12,
19.
19,000.
9.
9,000. Okay. Now,
Workers.
the number of workers. At the beginning, we have 11. And here, I'm just going to, no, I was going to write numbers, but I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so, the workers are gonna have some regular time capacity. So I'm gonna write this for convenience. The capacity in regular time. I'm writing this because we may have some capacity and the workers are not going to work that much. Why? Because they are gonna be idle some of the time. Is that understood? The capacity may be 100 hours, but they are going to work only 80, so the actual production is only 80. So that is the capacity. And this is the normal time, let me change this, production normal time. And I'm gonna say here just overtime. And this is for period T, and this is also for period T. Okay, so let me see, this is the capacity, the normal production. Obviously, I hope you see this production has to be less than the capacity in normal time. That is a constraint. Overtime has to be less. The problem says something about this, didn't it? Like this. Says overtime is limited to 20% of regular time capacity. Very clear, regular time capacity. Okay? Remember that. And next. I'm gonna write this, because we have a cost for hires. Remember that? So HT, and let me define this properly, because when we're done with Excel, we are going to optimize in Excel here. We are also going to formulate this problem as a linear programming problem, and we are going to solve it in Lingo. So, you know, the first step in modeling, optimization models, is to define the variables. This variable, OT, is the number of hours that are gonna be worked in overtime in period T. This, and this is very important, you may want to write this down, HT is the number of workers to be hired at the beginning of period T. At the beginning. And LT is the number of workers to be laid off at the beginning of period T.
Can you repeat LT?
Yes, LT is the number of workers to be laid off at the beginning of period T. In this case, the periods are quarters, right?
Mhm.
Any question about the variables? What is WT then? What is the definition of WT?
Number of workers.
Yes.
Number of workers, period?
No, number of workers. Yeah, years in each quarter.
Yeah, that are gonna be working in quarter or period T. Working during period T. Yes. So remember this, we need to be very precise in defining the variables. Very, very clear with this. Okay. Now, we are gonna have, let me enumerate this, the costs that we are going to have. We are gonna have a normal salary cost, we are gonna have overtime cost, we are going to have hiring cost and layoff cost. So 4 costs. I'm going to write this in the next columns. So here is salary or normal, let me say normal salary. And this is overtime salary. What else? I say cost of HT, cost of hiring, and cost of layoff. So these are not variables, these are like parameters, the costs. I'm going to use this cost to compute the total cost. The total cost is going to be just the sum of the 4 costs. Okay, so let us get started with this. This is the chase strategy with no overtime. How many workers do we need in period number 1?
6,300.
Okay, the operation is gonna be, the demand is this, divided by the capacity, the normal time capacity of 1 worker. And that is, I hope you remember, 520 per quarter. So we need 11.5, so I'm gonna delete this, and because we cannot have 11.5 workers. So how many workers are we going to have?
12.
We're gonna have 12. Okay, now can you compute the rest of them and tell me the numbers? How many workers in PO2?
23.
23?
24.
Oscar?
Yeah, 24.
24? Then,
36. 37.
say it again?
37.
37,
19.
19. Questions about this?
18.
18. Questions, guys? No questions? Okay, so now, what is the capacity? The capacity.
12 plus, no, 12
The normal time capacity, how many hours can they work? These 12 workers.
520,
Right, so I'm gonna write this, it's gonna be this times 520, is that right? Okay. So we have more capacity than we need here. So what is gonna be the actual production? How many hours are we going to actually work? We have capacity to work these many hours, right? But we only need to work 6,000, days only work for 6,000. We cannot keep inventories. So how many hours are we going to do to work? 6,000. There is no overtime, so the overtime over here is gonna be 0. Why is it 0? Because I said so at the beginning of the problem, that we were not going to use overtime in this case. Okay, here,
12.
12,000, 19,000, and 9,000. Do we have idle time?
yes.
Yes, we do. Good. Okay, now, hires. Period number 1.
1
1.
is period number 2.
12,
12
12.
is the 13
13.
and 0
0. Layoffs. Period 1.
0
You see, it's one or the other, right? Then 0, 0,
19,
19. Okay. Now, normal salary. What was the pay rate?
12.
Uh,
12 times,
But the salary was 6,240
yeah.
per quarter?
Yeah.
Okay, my question is, the 6,240 includes idle time?
No.
Yes. It does. It's total salary. So it's gonna be, again, it includes everything. It's the salary. They're gonna pay this salary, even if the worker is not actually working during some periods of time. So 6,040 times the number of workers, this. Okay, let me do an operation here. How many hours is the worker actually going to work?
The
6,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the first period, so 6,000. And what is the rate, the salary rate for each hour?
12
If the worker is working, 12.
12
Okay, and how many hours is gonna be idle, the worker?
240,
240. And what is the?
12.
12.
So what do we get? The same. The same. So yes, in this figure, 6,240, the whole thing is included. Idle time and productive time, they are included. We can do it both ways, but I think it's easier as I did it, right? Okay, now here, I just need to copy this. Okay, overtime salary, this is gonna be 0. but the overtime salary is gonna be what, 18 times? The overtime hours?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna write the formula. Okay, and the, cost of hiring. And the rate was 3,000 times the number of hires. Like that. And this was 2,000, the layoff cost. Like this. Did you get the same numbers? Now, to compute the total cost, I'm just going to add this. Like that. And the total cost is gonna be equal to the sum of these four elements. And we got this. Did you get the same answer?
Yes.
What was the cost of, water,
Of what?
the last formula?
What cell? Can you tell me what cell you need?
M4.
M4?
Okay, thank you.
That is the layoff cost, yes.
I got lost. How did we compute production normal time?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. We saw here that the capacity is this. But we only need to produce 6,000, so how much are you going to produce?
No.
6,000.
Mister,
And the rest is gonna be idle time. Yes,
can you please show cell L4?
L4.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Yeah. Can you show D10, please?
What cell?
D10.
D. I am not using that.
No, just.
Okay. So I just wanted to show you that,
Aquí, and again. J4, please.
G,
J.
it may be. Okay. So I am going to kind of erase this because I'm going to overwrite this for the next step. So we are done with the chase and we got the same answer, right? Okay? Next, we are going to find the level plan, but we are going to use overtime in this case. Okay? Level workforce plan. It means that the number of workers that we have in period number one, I need to say this. Did I mention this? In the level plan, remember this, in the level plan, and this is always, we can only hire and lay off workers at the beginning of period number one. Like in this case, I can keep the 12, but if I say in period number one, I hire one, right? But if I say in period number one, I'm gonna have 12 workers, in the level workforce plan, this has to be like this. This is gonna be equal to that. And level, you see that? Okay, so in this case, we need to find the level workforce plan using overtime. Okay, so there can be no back orders, no back orders. So how many workers do we need? So we need to satisfy the demand. Look at this. This is the capacity. Are we satisfying that? I'm gonna erase this. Because this is no longer true, or is it? Is it true?
No.
I'm gonna erase this. So, is this 12 workers a feasible plan?
No,
Why not?
because it doesn't cover the demand.
Right, you see, in period number 1, we are fine, but period number 2, we are not fine. So we need to increase the number of workers. Can you tell me what is the right number?
37.
37? Okay. But this is wrong. This figure here, 520 is wrong. This is the normal time capacity, but now we can schedule overtime. So what is the worker, what is the capacity per worker if we use overtime? It's gonna be that number, 520, times 1.2. Do you see why? The reason is because it says here that the overtime can be up to 20%. So what is the new capacity?
Yeah.
It is,
The overtime, wouldn't we put the overtime in the column of overtime?
well, I want to check the capacity. What is the capacity?
Times.
Oh, but this is capacity regular time, you're right. So, yes, the overtime, here is how much? 20% of the other figure. Oh, I can write it. But that is gonna be overtime capacity. The question is, are we going to use it? Okay, let me do that separate here. What is the capacity with full overtime per worker? It's gonna be,
The capacity times.
it's gonna be 520 times 1.2. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the capacity is 624. So how many workers do we actually need in period number 1?
The demand.
Like.
Divided by
10,
624. So how many workers do we need?
10,
Or 9.
10.
10? But is that good?
No.
Okay, it's not good. So what is the proper solution? How many workers do we need? I'm gonna keep on working with this. I'm gonna say 20. Enough? 25? You tell me when to stop. Fine?
31.
31? Is that enough?
Hmm. We need 10
Okay,
work-
let me add another column here. I'm going to add the total production. Total production of period T is gonna be the sum of the regular time production plus the overtime production. Okay, now in this case, if we have 31 workers, the problem is in period 3, but is it? How many hours can we work in overtime?
in period 3.
This is only regular time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many hours can we work in overtime?
19,000.
20% of that number, can you compute 20%?
19,000. In overtime?
Yes.
Mm.
Why? Because the problem says that we can work up to 20%. So how many hours?
Yes.
How many hours?
19,344.
And
44.
44.
44. Oh. Well, there's something.
That's the,
wrong.
that's the
Okay, this
total
is
capacity.
1,620, and how much is this? Just the overtime. As I said,
3,224.
3,000,
224.
okay, which is, yes, 19,344. And the demand is only 19,000, so is this a feasible solution?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the 31, is it feasible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And actually, we don't have to work this many
overtime hours. How many hours do we need?
344 days.
You see, because the demand is only 19,000, so